After years of deployment in Afghanistan, our German squad was en route to the nearest outpost. Their mission routine and their focus is steady. They thought it was just another day in hostile territory, but then the radio crackled to life.
Achtung, heute Morgen hat das Kabinett die Rückverlegung aller Truppen aus Afghanistan nach Deutschland veranlasst. Dies ist keine Übung. Begeben Sie sich so schnell wie möglich zum nächsten Außenposten.
The broadcast was clear: immediate evacuation. Every German soldier was to retreat to the nearest outpost. The Taliban were on the move, launching their final assault, determined to leave no survivors. The squad has no time to process. Deep inside enemy territory, they were now in desperate race against time. The mission had changed: reach the outpost or be left behind in a foreign land with no allies. The road ahead is treacherous. Danger lurks at every turn. The squad doesn't know what lies ahead, but they know failure is not an option. The stakes couldn't be higher. The question will be, will they make it out alive, or will they be stuck in a foreign country, left for dead? After hearing the urgent evacuation order, our squad raced towards a small NATO roadblock. This was supposed to be the first safe point, a place to regroup, gain strength and numbers, and push on to the outpost. But hope can be a fleeting thing in the chaos of war. NATO forces, once holding the line, were now scattered, lifeless in the dirt. Weapons discarded. The stench of death hung heavy in the air. For the squad, the reality sank in fast. They were alone. No reinforcements, no backup. Their route to safety was now a graveyard. Anxiety began to take hold. Could they trust the road ahead? Would the outpost still be standing? Or were they driving right into a trap? With no choice but to turn back, the squad had to chart a new route, a dangerous gamble in hostile territory. Unbeknownst to them, their movement had not gone unnoticed. The Taliban, relentless and cunning, had caught wind of their retreat and set their trap. In an instant, chaos erupted. A hidden mine brought the convoy to a violent halt. The vehicle was no longer safe. Smoke filled the air and the squad had no choice but to disembark, scrambling for cover as bullets rained down from the hidden position. The ambush was brutal. The Taliban, concealed in the ridge above, fired relentlessly. The squad, outnumbered and outmaneuvered, had no time to think, only to fight. With every passing second, their chances of survival grew slimmer, but they refused to go down without a fight. These were soldiers hardened by war, not just for their mission, but for each other. This was no longer just a mission to reach the outpost. It was now a battle for survival, and in this unforgiving land, survival came at a cost. The ambush had claimed them all, except for one. Badly wounded and alone, the soldier emerged from the chaos, the weight of survival pressing down on him like a heavy burden. With every step his vision blurred, the pain of his injuries threatening to overcome him, but he knew stopping was not an option. Somewhere out there in the distance lay a city, a slim chance for shelter and survival. He had no chance but to press on. As he neared the outskirts of the city, the streets were eerily quiet, every sound amplified in the stillness. The soldier instinct screamed danger, but his body demanded rest. And then he saw it. Movement near a house, just a flicker in the corner of his eyes. His training took over and he crouched low, his heart pounding in his chest. He had no time to weigh his options, no time for hesitation. In this land, hesitation meant death. With a surge of determination, he moved like a shadow, closing the distance between him and the enemy. Every step was calculated, every breath silent. He couldn't afford to leave a trail. One mistake, one sound, and it will all be over. The takedown was clean, but the cost weighed heavy. Every encounter drained what little strength of him was left. In the silence that followed, he allowed himself a brief moment to breathe. He had made it this far, against all odds. Now his only goal was to survive, to find shelter, heal his wounds, and live to fight another day. Exhausted, broken, and barely clinging to life, the soldier reached the door of a small house. His strength was fading and his vision blurred with every heartbeat. This was his last chance, a desperate plea of shelter in a land where friend and foe blurred into uncertainty.
तो एंजा चीकार मेकनी फौरन बरो माहेच मुश्किली बा तो नमी ख्वाहीम.
Fear gave way to compassion. The sight of the soldier broken and barely clinging to life was enough to dissolve the family's hesitation. In that moment, humanity triumphed over fear. In a world torn apart by war, kindness can still be found in the most unlikely places. The family, risking everything, chose to help this soldier, even as fear lingered in their hearts. For the soldier, it was a moment of salvation, a glimmer of hope in the darkness. As dawn broke over the quiet village, the soldier prepared to leave. The kindness of strangers had saved his life, but he couldn't linger. Every moment he spent here increased the danger, not just for him, but for the family. He'd risk everything to help him. With no more than 12 kilometers left to the outpost, the soldier's body ached, but his will pushed him forward. Every step brought him closer to safety, closer to completing a journey that had already claimed so much. The terrain was unforgiving, the silence oppressive. Each shadow could hide a threat, each moment a potential ambush. But the soldier pressed on, fueled by a singular purpose: to survive and reach the outpost. The journey was grueling, every step a test of endurance. The soldier was just 10 kilometers away from the outpost when the nature decided to unleash its fury. In the distance, a wall of swirling sand roses moving fast and merciless. A sandstorm was coming, a force of nature as relentless as the enemy he had escaped. Time was no longer his only enemy. The storm bore down on him, threatening to swallow him whole. Running was futile. The sandstorm had begun to fade, leaving behind an early silence. For the first time in what felt like days, the soldier allowed himself a moment to breathe. With a small fire crackling at his feet, he opened a ration pack. But in war, even moments of respite come with risk. The glow of the fire, though small and fleeting, was a beacon in the darkness, a signal that he wasn't as alone as he thought. His moment of peace was shattered. The enemy had spotted him. They were close, too close. Outnumbered and exposed, the hunter had become the hunted. The soldier, battered and outnumbered, had only his wits and training to rely on. He couldn't afford to wait for them to strike first. Just only 1 hour left to reach the outpost. The soldier's body screamed for rest, but time wasn't on his side. The soldier scanned the scene, his mind racing. The outpost was so close. This city stood between him and safety. Every second brought the enemy closer, and his time was running out. There was no turning back now. The outpost was waiting, and the soldier had only 1 hour to find a way through the chaos. Every step counted, and every second mattered. With only 1 hour left to reach the outpost, the soldier faced another obstacle. A narrow but fast-moving river stood between him and the city. Beyond it, the enemy gathering their numbers, growing by minute. He couldn't hesitate. Time was slipping away, and every second brought the Taliban closer to launching their attack. The soldier pressed forward, his body exhausted, his mind fixed on the mission. Drenched and drained, the soldier stood on the edge of danger. The city was alive with enemy fighters preparing for the final assault. The outpost was close, but time was running out, and his greatest challenge was just beginning. Each enemy he took down brought him closer to his goal, but also closer to being discovered. His plan was simple: plant a bomb in the center of their gathering forces and cripple their attack before it could even begin. He knew the cost and he accepted it. This mission would likely be his last. The bomb was set, but his presence hadn't gone unnoticed. A sharp cry from the enemy cut through the air, followed by a barrage of gunfire. The soldier's heart pounded. He wasn't just fighting for his survival now, he was fighting for time. Time to detonate the bombs and time to save his comrades. He fought with everything he had, his shots deliberate, his aim unerring, but the enemy was relentless. Their numbers overwhelming. For every fighter he took down, more seemed to appear. His body screamed in exhaustion, his ammunition dwindling, but his resolve remained unbroken. He had to survive, just long enough to finish the mission. He knew he was out of options, surrounded and outgunned. He had no way to fight back, but the mission wasn't about survival. It was about the outpost, his friends, his comrades. With no ammunition left and the enemy closing in, he shifted his focus. His priority was clear: detonate the bombs and destroy the convoy.
Shadows whisper my despair. Every tear an endless winter. Broken hearts beyond repair. Silent cries in the night. Lonely sighs in the fight. In the dark I find no light. Love's a ghost out of sight. Echoes drift through empty places. Hollow dreams in empty spaces. Fading smiles on tear-streaked faces. Time's a thief, loved ones it chases. Silent cries in the night. Lonely sighs in the fight. In the dark I find no light. Love's a ghost out of sight. Memories like shattered glass, pains that time will never pass. In this void where shadows mass,